So I have been eyeing the Book of Boundaries for what feels like forever. But I have been pretty busy facilitating other book clubs, whether it was for Bottomless to Sober or the Reframe app. And I just really haven't had a chance to sit and start reading it. So I've had it on the bookshelf and I said, I'm finally going to start reading this. So I finally read the introductory chapter, and here's basically what's going to happen. Now, I'm choosing to not make myself be super organized and put it on a schedule and say, hey, I'm going to go live at these times and discuss this chapter of the book. I'm not doing all that. So I will go live at random and when I feel moved, and I will share different parts of the text that resonated with me, because hopefully it'll resonate with you too, because so far I have found this text to be incredibly helpful. This is the Book of Boundaries, the Set the Limits That Will Set You Free, and it's written by Melissa Urban. You may also know her as the co-founder of the Whole30 program. I've done Whole30 in the past. It was okay, but I do really love her content, and so I wanted to check out her book just because she's been posting a lot about it, and everything that she's been posting has, just resonated with me a lot, especially with the conversation of boundaries and it being almost the holidays. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and share certain parts of her introductory chapter and just share some thoughts. Feel free, if you join, comment, share, like it, of course, engage. I love engaging with folks, and I totally have no problem with being interrupted or having my stream of thinking interrupted. So the first thing that she does in the chapter is she literally introduces what boundaries are, because I know that for me, I had my own perception of what boundaries are, and I think all of us do. But she writes on, and I'm using the hard paperback version, on page 6, she says, boundaries mark the limits of behavior that are acceptable to you, where words or actions beyond that limit cause you harm or make you feel unsafe. Boundaries are not used to tell other people what they can and cannot do. That would be controlling. Boundaries are established to help you plan and communicate your response to what other people say or do. In a healthy boundary practice, you'll notice how other people's behavior impacts you, communicate your healthy limit in relation to that behavior, then consider what you are willing to do to enforce that limit. So I liked how she explained that there, honestly, because I think that for a lot of times when I thought about boundaries, I really did think about how other people were supposed to act. And what she's making clear as the author is that no, that boundaries are what I'm going to do if you do certain things that, make me uncomfortable or pass or cross certain lines. So I know I appreciated that, just to have that super clear definition of what boundaries are, because again, we hear the term boundaries a lot. It's the holiday season. There's a million posts on social media about setting boundaries. So to actually have, an author actually make it pretty clear, I found that really beneficial. The other thing that she shared about, which is on page 13 in the hardcover book, is, in case you didn't know, this author is in recovery from drugs for 22 years. She is recently celebrated online. She's been sober or clean for 22 years. And in the intro chapter, she basically gives the rundown of what her drug use looked like. And, she basically says, had a pretty traditional home life, had a traumatic event, and that triggered the use of drugs, and kind of her family's reaction or lack of to it set off worse drug use. So she then talked about the idea of getting sober or getting into recovery, and how she was able to abstain, but her lifestyle didn't match kind of the goal that she wanted, and how it led to a relapse. So on page 13, she wrote about it, and she shared, in that year after coming home from rehab, I maintained my life exactly the same as it had always been, minus the drugs. My friends were the same, my routines were the same, my clothes, music, and eating habits were the same. I went to the same places with the same people who were doing the same things they had always done, and everyone, including me, expected me to show up mostly the same as well. So I did. When I look back on that time now, it's clear why I relapsed. I had set just one shaky boundary with myself around my drug use, relationships, and mental health. I said I wouldn't use. except I did nothing to support that. So that part for me as a person in recovery is really important because for me in my first 2 years, it was very important to literally change like everything about my life. And I think that, you'll hear common sayings like changing people, places, and things, right? And I think that likewise, I was really happy to see that she talked about that too. It's just a reminder that, when we are trying to achieve things, in my case, it's living an alcohol-free life and being sober, the decisions that I make have to be in alignment with that. And even not just say recovery, but anything that I want in my personal life, I realize that I have to act in alignment. And if it's not in alignment, then it's going to lead to a disruption in my journey to get to what I want and accomplish. So I like that for sure. The other part that she shared on page 18 of her book, she basically talks about the turning point when she finally establishes like her first real boundary, which is surrounding her recovery and leaving the drug use behind. And she had a friend who she went to a party with, and she finally tells this friend everything about like how she just cannot drink or not drink, but cannot use drugs, but also not drink. And this is her reflection on what it was like after she told that friend. She said, "It was also the beginning of a new life. I had been worried about hurting my relationship with James, but communicating clearly what I needed and how he could support me only deepened our friendship. It also gave me the courage to have the same conversation with my other close friends. Most of them agreed to hold these same boundaries for me. Some demonstrated they could not, and I had to let them go. It hurt in the moment, but then I would ask myself, is this person really my friend if they can't do the bare minimum to keep me safe?" So I love that passage because it speaks to the power of communication. To me, it speaks to the power of recovering out loud, whether it's on social media or just you like literally verbalize to somebody that you are in recovery and that you're going through this journey. She struggled a lot up until this point when she was able to speak to the fact that she was on this health journey and that she was letting go of the drugs and moving forward in her life. And I mean, just the fact that she says it gave her the courage to have the same conversation with other people. So if you're watching this and you're somebody who is silently thinking about quitting, silently struggling, you haven't really like disclosed to anybody that you're in this pain that you're dealing in this cycle that you might be trapped in, realize again that there's a lot of power in connection, and choosing to tell somebody what you're going through, that can be all that you need to really empower you and give you that momentum to move forward in terms of getting the help that you really need. So I just wanted to share that because that was really powerful. And then the other thing in the next page, kind of going back to the idea of being in alignment, she wrote, "I began setting boundaries with myself that I would behave in all things like a healthy person with healthy habits. That became the mantra that would guide my life for the next few years. Would a healthy person with healthy habits carpool to this cookout, not knowing who else will be there? Nope, drive yourself. Would a healthy person with healthy habits go out to dinner with her new running group, but order a sparkling water with lime? Yes, they would. Go have fun." So to me, that was really cool because it's like literally when you go into anything, you can stop and ask yourself, is this in alignment with, blank, whether it's, is this in alignment with me living an alcohol-free life? And you can literally say, yes, it is, or no, it's not, and kind of use that to help guide you in your decision making. So I really appreciated that. And then the last quote that I'll share from her intro chapter, because that's all I got to read, was on page 21, where she's, telling us as the readers, like, I understand that this is hard. And she wrote, setting boundaries is hard. She wrote, "I know it's scary. I know it's uncomfortable. I know it's hard, but so is what you're doing now. Avoiding certain people, dreading specific conversation topics, feeling anxious before social events, or just staying home getting angry at hypothetical interactions, overcommitting your time and energy, prioritizing other people's feelings over your own, and letting everyone sip your cup dry, that's hard. Maybe not spiraling into addiction hard, but certainly crying in an empty bathtub with a box of gluten-free Oreos at 10 p.m. hard. I set my first boundary out of necessity as a matter of life or death. Your boundaries may not feel that consequential, but I bet you can relate to the idea that your life is shrinking without them. And so that last quote, I wanted to share it specifically because it does make life easier when you're able to communicate like what you need, right? And there's also this one saying I've seen a lot, and it says, choose your hard. And I think that I'm excited to get into this book. I'm a little nervous about getting into this book, but I think that it is true that I put myself through a lot of like mental exhaustion when I'm constantly worried about situations versus like me speaking up and saying what I need, what I feel, what I'm expecting, and then, taking it from there. But if you don't communicate your needs, people aren't mind readers. They're not going to know. And so, yeah, it will be really easy for people to walk all over you. And again, as people in recovery, what can easily happen too is that we've spent so many years in our active drinking or use where we were such people pleasers because we felt so badly about ourselves that we had no boundaries before. We let people make us uncomfortable all the time and time again, because we felt badly about who we were. But I'm hoping that, through exploring this book, that we're going to really see that we don't have to have people walk all over us. And it's not even about, it's just really about like stepping up for ourselves, being true to ourselves and honoring ourselves. And I'm just really excited to begin. So if you resonated with anything that I said, feel free to follow, keep up, get the book, I suppose, read along with me. I love to see what your thoughts are as well. So like I said, I'm not scheduling anything formal. I'm just going to go live as I feel moved to. And if you want to participate, then awesome. I just think it's a great topic. The holidays are coming up. Boundaries come up all the time as an issue. So why not read a book all about it? Thanks. Take care.